Welcome to this course for Action Research. My name is Bianca and I'm the Research Officer. I shall be taking you through this course. So for today, we start with lesson number 1. So in this lesson, we're going to identify the problem at your workplace. So contents of this lesson, first of all, we are going to look at the outlook of the Action Research course, define Action Research. Here Action Research, we mean AR, we have shortened it to AR. An outlook of the AR process, who can do AR, how to define a problem in Action Research, examples of problems that can call for Action Research, and then how you can measure the severity of the problem. So for the outlook of the Action Research course, so for Action Research, we're going to have two parts. The first part is the problem. The second part is the action or intervention. So for the problem, you're going to have a research proposal and a research report. Then for the action or intervention, you're going to have a research proposal and a research report. So before we go any further, we need to know what is action research. So in summary, action research is a powerful tool for change and improvement at the local level. So at the local level, what they mean, it means at the place where you work. So it's also a process of inquiry and reflection in which insiders of an organization, department, or community examine their personal work practices systematically using techniques of research to improve their work practices. So if you see, action research is highly local in nature, meaning the solution or results of the action research cannot be generalized or applied to other settings, but can only work for your setting or your workplace. So for example, what could have worked for the engineering department cannot work for the medical catering department, or what worked for North Coast Medical Training College cannot work for a Kenya Medical Training College, and so forth. So characteristics of action research. If you look carefully, you will see that action research is a process which keeps going on and on and on without an end. But what you will notice is that for each stage, there will be always a change and a change. Then there are different activities which can be done. It's systematic. It helps finding solutions to problem. It is cooperative. That means people have to work in form of teams. Then it brings improvement to the situation. It's flexible. It involves self-evaluation. You have to keep on examining yourself. And then the results cannot be generalized. That means it's highly local. So it only works for your workplace, but cannot be, the results of your workplace cannot be applied to other settings. Then it's cyclic in nature, but not done in a straight line. So let's look at the outlook of the action research process. So if you look in this image, you will see the cyclical nature of action research. So you would see it starts with stage 1. You clarify your vision by identifying a focus or a problem. Then you select your achievement targets. You establish an assessment criteria. Then stage 2, you have to find some theories of action which you are going to do. Then stage 3, you implement the action and collect data. When you get all the data, you have to analyze. You move to stage 4, you revise your theory of action, and then you plan future action. So you keep on doing this in form of a cycle. In other words, if you didn't understand the other cycle, you can also check this one. Like you see number 1 here, you identify the problem. Number 2, you review literature. You go to different books, papers, you read about that problem, how others solved it in their settings, or how the problem occurred in their settings. Then you set research questions, objectives, and hypotheses. After that, you choose a study design. You decide on the sample design. You collect your data. You process and analyze your data. You write your report. So this is how the action research process should be like. So this is another representation of the action research cycle. So it's a simple one where you start from planning, then you move to act, move to observe, and then you move to reflect. So for the stage where we are, remember we are trying to identify the problem. So identification of the problem usually fits in the planning stage. Then who can do action research? So if you look closely, you would find that action research is for anyone who works in any setting which involves people working together towards a common goal. So you can be teachers in a classroom, or you can be teacher and your students. It can be an office, finance office, IT office. It can be maybe internal auditor office. It can be a department, maybe nutrition department, clinical medicine department. It can even be in the community and any other setting where people are working towards a common goal. And then it's a course that is relevant to the CHPF, community coordinators, project managers, healthcare professionals, and then North Coast Medical Training College, consisting of teachers, administrative staff, because you will always have some challenges at your workplace which need to be addressed urgently to improve your work performance. So it's important for that purpose. So how do we define a problem in action research? So the first step when you are planning to do an action research is to identify a problem at your workplace or in your community. So here we want to be focused on the workplace, because most of the people who are doing this action research are staff here at North Coast or CHPF. So you define the problem, then it helps you to go further with the action research stages. So it might be helpful to think of a problem that you can control. And then ideally, you might want to pick an area that interests you and is worth your time and your effort. So before defining a problem in action research, we want to understand what the word problem is or where it originated from. So the first records of the word problem came from around 1350. It is from the Greek words problema, meaning something thrown or put forward. So it is a noun made by combining the Greek prefix pro and the verb balein, meaning to throw. So here is the definition of a problem from Merriam-Webster dictionary. So it says a problem is a situation or a person or a thing that needs attention and needs to be dealt with or solved. So in general terms, they try to give examples like problems can be financial, health problems, lack of cash, problems with the computer, problems with radioactive waste. So this is just in general. So we want to be focused to action research. So before we go there, we need to know synonyms for the word problem. So if you don't understand what problem is, you can use other words which are related to problem. For example, difficulty can also mean a problem. An issue can mean a problem. A complication can mean a problem. A trouble can mean a problem. A puzzle, a riddle, a question can also be a problem. So a problem in action research is a discrepancy or a gap between the expected and observed performance. You see, so when you are focused at the workplace now, here it means you are looking at your expected versus the observed performance. So you're trying to identify the gap between the expected and observed performance. That's where you find the problem for your action research. So there are different sources of problems, but for conducting an action research, the problem must be related to your work context. And then, for example, if it's a teacher, you can do action research in your classroom. If it's an ICT officer, you can do action research in the ICT department. It just depends on where you work at. You focus there. So if you have identified the area now where you can pick a problem, how can you identify now the problem itself? So problem identification consists of two steps. One, identify and acknowledge that a discrepancy or a gap exists. So first you have to really identify that there is a problem, not to suspect, but you should have evidence a bit. Then develop a problem identification statement. So this problem may arise regarding expected behaviors, expected academic performance, or an expected skill set. So therefore, to identify a problem, it is important to understand the typical or expected levels of performance for a specific learner or worker in your setting. So like at the workplace, you can remember that when you started your work, you are given a job description. So the job description is like the expected level of your performance. Then when you go in the workplace, now there's this kind of behavior which you start to do now, which is the observed performance. So you would want to maybe analyze the expected levels of performance versus the ones which you are doing, the observed level of performance. So that's where you can identify the gap if there is. So this expected level of performance serves as a criterion by which a skill or a knowledge base or a behavior can be compared. So problem identification can occur at the system, within the system of the school, right? Or the place where you work, or it can occur at the group level, maybe the team you are working with, or it can occur on the individual level. Maybe personally you have your own weaknesses which make you not achieve your goals. So part of the effective problem identification is determining at which of these levels the problem exists. So remember, problems can occur from the system, that's the system, the whole system, the school system where you are working at, or it can occur in the group, maybe the team you are working with, or as an individual, at you, your weaknesses or your strengths. So in this slide, as you can see, it's showing you how you can identify problems. So here in this box, we have expected performance. So that can be your job description or rules set up in your department or your office. Then in the blue box, you see observed performance. So those ones can be the things which you are currently doing in your department or in your office or in your classroom. So between the expected performance box and the observed performance box, you can see something yellow here written a gap. So in this gap now, that's when you can identify problems which exist between your expected performance and your observed performance. So here we want to discuss examples of places where you can identify problems for an action research proposal. Okay, so problems can be seen in different ways. So here we have a slide which is showing two types of images. We have the ones in blue and then the ones colorful with this star. So let's start with the ones in blue. So problems, you can identify them in the system of the institution. So in the system of the institution now, it means the system as a whole. The system as a whole, there's an area maybe you can identify the problem. Then the second one is you can identify problem in groups of individuals within the system. So it can be maybe some teams are not working efficiently than others and so forth. Then it can be the person in the system. So it can be another person maybe you are seeing who's not working efficiently, or it can be you personally. Maybe there are some weaknesses which you have noticed in your job performance. So that's how you can identify problem from one side. Then on this other side, you can identify problems through these four areas. You can identify problems on the buildings and infrastructure of the institution. You can also check maybe people in the institution who are working there and their behaviors. You can find problems there. Then resources. You can look at the resources which are needed for the institution or the ones which are currently available. There you can meet some problems. Then you can also check your personal, again, like the other diagram. Maybe it's some weaknesses of somebody or your personal weaknesses which are preventing you from working efficiently. So for example, if the problem is common for more than 20% learners, let's say for teachers, the problem, you see that it's common for more than 20% learners in a classroom, Then problem analysis should occur at the system level so that solutions are developed for all the students. Then if the problem is common for 5% of learners or an identified group at your workplace, problem analysis is best conducted at the group level. If the problem is rare or specific to a particular learner or person in your workplace, then problem analysis should occur at the individual level. So effective problem identification can also make use of appropriate assessment tool. So this assessment tool helps you to prove to others that surely the problem is evident. So you would want to show others, like, surely I identified the problem using this assessment tool. So the problem identification requires a use of an appropriate measure. It can be a measure or an assessment tool to determine whether a problem or a discrepancy exists. So you don't want to be like subjective when you identify a problem. So you need to be objective. Like you really show people that surely this problem exists. So for example, to determine whether there's a reading problem, like for teachers, maybe you identify your students have a reading problem. You can do an oral test measure. So it can calculate how the students is reading or their reading rate and accuracy. Once they finish reading, now you are able to validate that surely there's a reading problem. Then if they can read, then you will know that, no, this problem is not like a priority for now. Then you focus on other problems. So for your department, you can also try to find how you can identify problems. You can find some assessment measures or assessment tools that can help you. So after identifying the problem, the next step would be to measure the severity of the problem. So measuring the severity of the problem shows you whether the problem needs to be addressed urgently or later. So in this slide, I'm going to share with you a problem severity checklist you are going to look at. It's a Word document. So first you highlight your problem and then you look at that document to guide you on the severity. So some of the aspects which the document looks at are: 1, how frequent is that problem? And then number of people affected by that problem, the amount of time they've been affected, the urgency of the solution, like is it needed now or later or a few months later. Then priority, is it a priority problem for now or it's a problem which can be dealt with later? Then does the problem maybe affect your own department alone or some different types of departments or the whole system? Then also you would want to know the perceptions of other colleagues on that problem, and then your ability to solve it. Are you able to solve, or maybe it needs someone to solve it? Maybe you mention. And then potential consequences of the problem. If it's not solved, you can list them. So once you are done with all these factors, you kind of see the priority, like the problem will come out clear whether it needs to be addressed now or later. And also it will also define if the problem is severe or not really severe. So these are the references of the lesson. 2 of them are from a book library, then the other ones you can Google them on internet and read further. So this is the assignment for the lesson. You click a link on MLM with your name and it will take you to the Google Forms where you will complete the assignment. So some of the questions in assignment include defining the problem. What is the problem you have noticed at your workplace? And then the last question, for the problem you have mentioned above, how severe is it? Use the problem severity checklist provided to guide you. So there's going to be a problem severity checklist Word document which is going to be shared after this lesson. So thanks for your participation. Hope to meet for the next lesson. Thanks.